This video supports handcrafted English captions. The decline and fall of console games in China. Video games and consoles were among the cargoes on ships that sailed to China in the late 1970s as a result of the opening of China. With increasing income and other things such as the involvement of native distributors, gaming markets saw a decade-long expansion in the 90s, even though piracy was a big problem. Why only a decade-long expansion? Well, the game console sales ban came in the year 2000. Video games were often accused of being addictive by parents, and China has always been careful with things that are addictive, largely due to our history with RPMs and Great Britain. So when these accusations overwhelmed the reporting system, they just banned the sale of gaming consoles and boxed games once and for all. They banned little in preventing addiction, because playing games was not illegal. Sounds familiar? Arcades and PC games were still growing. You could always get pirated games online. And if you really want to have a PlayStation 2, you could always get it in Hong Kong, which is highly autonomous and unaffected by Chinese acts and bans. Online shopping, which was almost free of governmental supervision, also became an option later. In case you don't know, the reporting system of China is like a disease reporting system that as soon as, say, a new kind of virus is found spreading, relevant details will be reported from where the virus is found to CDC. Replace virus with corrupted official, local drug dealer, a Western weapon of ideological frontline, just basically anything, and replace CDC with Chinese government. You'll get the reporting system of China. Every citizen has the right to report something. Reporting system has always been dangerously effective because how an official responds to a report reflects how good he or she is considered. Every official wants to be remembered as good and cares about people, so as soon as there's a report, there will be an investigation. There were several attempts to revoke the ban in the 2000s and early 2010s, but on the one hand, parents were still bombarding and reporting addictive video games. On the other, video games are getting more complex. You were only escaping from pixel ghosts in the 80s, but now you are fighting against People's Liberation Army in Battlefield 4. And games like GTA and Assassin's Creed are absolutely light years away from Chinese ideologies that promotes peace and prosperity. And so like our government is not making any money from video games. But console market is just way too big to ignore. WTO was already knocking the door, questioning about free trade. Now that the effort of preventing addiction failed, thank you mobile games, there's no excuse of keeping all console games out of China. In the year 2014, the 14-year-long ban was removed. Happy ending? No. Almost all AAA titles on consoles are about killing and chasing. No peace, no prosperity. Definitely Western barbarian ideology. Even games like Super Mario Odyssey is having a hard time because you can kill the mushrooms and there's a pirate hat in the game. Definitely Western. But it is not that hopeless. Master Chief Collection made it to the shelves, and it's 4 FPS, though all blood effects are removed and dead body disappear in 3 seconds. Console in China is pathetic. Or is it? Sony and Microsoft are not stupid. Simply by allowing your Chinese customers access overseas PS Store or Xbox Marketplace and everything will be alright. And that's what Sony planned to do before they introduced PS4 to China. They implied on several occasions that their consoles will not have account lock nor store region lock in China, and discs will also be playable regardless of their region, just like the rest of the world. This news cheered Chinese console gamers up. For the first time in 14 years, we can finally go and pick up consoles in our nearby stores. We don't have to fix our consoles by ourselves when it went down, and no one is going to overcharge us for the smuggled consoles ever. It's not like it's illegal to log in a US PSN account in China anyway. Legally speaking, purchase game from foreign PS Store is just equivalent as to travel to another country and purchase games there, right? No. What you purchase matters. If you purchase weeds in a country that is legal and brought them into a country that is not, you are a drug dealer. Same principle applies to purchasing games. Games like Battlefield 4 is not super legal in China, so if you purchase it through PS Store or Xbox Marketplace, you got a problem. Not only you, this will also be a problem for Sony and Microsoft. However, if the government never knows anything about it, that is, nobody ever reports it, everything's gonna be alright. Well, somebody reported it. The snitch was a Microsoft fanboy Liu Ruizhe. He reported the no region lock policy of PS4 to the government to revenge for the Chinese version Xbox One, which was region locked and overseas games, including discs, were unable to access on it. Guess Microsoft didn't want to try their luck when launching Xbox One in China. Reporting PS4 was just like what the parents did in the 90s. Just so you know, back in the 90s, reporting something was very complex. But now, thanks to the internet, all you had to do was fill in a table like this with your concerns, and government will investigate to prove that it cares about people. An investigation came, and the launch of PS4 was delayed for all kinds of reasons. When PS4 finally hit the Chinese market along with PS Vita, gamers were not allowed to log in overseas PSN accounts and access foreign PS stores, and the only games on Chinese store was games like Knack and Trials. A coalition formed among Chinese console gamers. Liu Ruizhe was abandoned by even Xbox fans because consoles in China might never be region-free ever. As gamers cyberbullying Liu Ruizhe, mysterious instructions were found on the Chinese internet for PS4 and Xbox One. These instructions involved the usage of USB drives, so naturally at first people thought it was virus targeting the consoles. However, as soon as gamers actually followed these instructions on their Chinese version consoles, miracles happened. The gamers' Chinese version consoles became region-free. American game discs, Japanese PS Store, Xbox Marketplace, all became available. Nobody knew who posted these instructions. Could be Sony and Microsoft themselves, or just some random hackers. As time passes, gamers seem to forget about the snitch Liu Ruizhe. Chinese version consoles were selling again. Chinese console gamers joined the rest of the world. More and more people in China got to know about gaming consoles, which was forgotten in the past 14 years. Everything looked promising, until Nintendo Switch came. On the 10th of December 2019, Nintendo Switch officially made its way into China. Though through smuggling, millions of Switch consoles were already here. I already got mine in 2018, but I was still glad to see it in the stores. At least it will be easier for me to replace my Joy-Cons when they start drifting. People expected Switch could also be region-free, at least through some mysterious instructions. However, when Switch launched, it was locked tightly to the Chinese Nintendo eShop, which ridiculously offered the only one game, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Government had to have something to do with it. But Nintendo fans in China could not just ask the government why the other consoles in China are kind of region-free and Switch is region-locked. Months passed, there was still no news on the region-lock policy. And the only game in the eShop was still New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Soon, it would be the Chinese New Year, when people return to their hometown to celebrate 2020. If Chinese version of Nintendo Switch is still a Mario launcher by then, owners would be crazy. Around this time, somebody realized that Nintendo and its agent in China actually promised that there will be a monthly release of games in China for Nintendo Switch. In desperation, some Nintendo fans reported this broken promise to the government even though they know it's government that's checking the content of the games delivered to them. Nothing happened, and there was no response. Things are not getting any better, during the coronavirus outbreak. Nintendo fans felt unfair, and one of them, a radical, probably crazy too, reported the government that PS4 sold in China could easily access foreign PS stores and purchase games such as GTA 5, which are not appropriate for Chinese ideologies. On the 10th of May 2020, Sony was investigated once again, and PS Store in China was shut down for maintenance, and there is no estimated date for its return. PlayStation Store is dead in China. It was going to celebrate its 6-year-old birthday, but that might never came. It could be the first to fall, foreshadowing the eventual death of consoles in this largest gaming market of the world. It could also be just the maintenance and nothing more. Maybe after 6 years of struggle, Chinese console gamers are just going to rely on smuggling and piracy once more. Looking back, reporters seem to be the only reason for the decline and fall of the console games in China. At first it was parents, then it was fans of each console. But reporting system is just like that nuke in Megaton. Whether the Lone Wanderer blows it or not, it's just there, waiting for someone to activate.